delving into perhaps some of the lesser-known Lincoln Cent varieties from the $1 Million Stephenville collection now. Let's start off with a variety to be found on the 2004 Memorial Cent. This coin is actually a case of a more prominent doubled reverse, which is not usually the norm for the series. Doubling here is displayed mostly in the form of additional thickness to the letters as a result of the moderate spread. Displayed chiefly in the letters of E pluribus unum, you can see that the letters are a lot wider, especially towards the left-hand side, than they really were designed to be. The same can also be said for the dots that divide the words, which are now almost oval-shaped instead of round and appear to be elongated. Receiving a grade of MS67 Red from PCGS, it closed at auction for $1,800 by final call. 1941 is the host of our next variety. This is a great coin because despite being an old-school variety known for many years, it can still be cherry-picked with a bit of luck today. For this coin, you can look towards the letters of liberty, especially the I, B, and E of the word. Here you can see the doubling very clearly. Then the letters of trust are doubled very widely. But because the first impression was set too shallow, it doesn't actually display the full letter. But you can see the doubling towards the bottom half of these letters. PCGS gave this coin a grade of MS66 Red, and when its turn at the auction block came, it sold for $1,800. From there, we head to 1927 and the Denver Mint to discover a fairly strong repunched mint mark variety that remains surprisingly elusive, despite becoming more sought after in recent years. Sometimes a coin is rare because not very many of them have been discovered, but then other times it's just because not very many of them were made to begin with. Upon closer inspection, the repunching of the D mint mark becomes immediately apparent, with both of the serifs clearly doubled and the initial D impression seen inside the cavity of the D mint mark. This MS64 red-brown example of the variety was sold at auction for $1,800. When speaking of Lincoln Cent varieties and the year 1955, one coin immediately jumps to mind. But there are actually a few decent varieties to look for in this one date. One of those is this proof penny that is a combined double-die obverse and reverse variety. On the obverse, the date is doubled, not as dramatically as its bigger brother, but still a fair amount of discernible doubling, especially in the tails of the 9 and the 5s. On the reverse, at the same time, we can see very clear doubling on the letters of E pluribus unum, displaying mostly towards the south, with separation lines seen on virtually all of the letters. Graded by PCGS as proof 68 red, this was sold at auction for $2,280. 1960 counts as a transitional year for the US Mint, as early on in the year it was discovered that the number 0 in the date of 1960 was too small, and that in production the dies were prone to filling and cracking at this point as a result. The date was then slightly redesigned, and so the large and small date varieties were born. This small date variant of the coin is the scarcer of the two types, with the large date being the more plentiful. This example we see here was graded as MS67 plus red by PCGS, placing it at the very top of the population report, and for that it secured a final bid at auction of $2,280. The first half of the 1930s can be a bit slim pickings for the Lincoln Cent variety hunter, with the exception probably of the 1934 issue, perhaps, but 1935 does have a very attractive double-die obverse coin to look for at the same time. Here, the hallmark of the coin in terms of doubling is definitely on the date, where most of the numbers are consistently doubled towards the north, and not exactly in a subtle way either. This coin is, not surprisingly, one of the finest known of the variety, and was graded by PCGS as MS66 Red and was sold at auction for $2,340. From there, we head back to the steel pennies of 1934 and the veritable treasure trove of varieties that are to be discovered on these coins. This example is a double-die reverse specimen where the doubling can be detected on nearly all of the design elements. The letters of E pluribus unum, displaying the doubling in the form of extreme additional thickness, mostly towards the south of the letters in question. The N of 1 in 1 cent also displays this effect, but this time with the added indulgence of a clear separation line towards the top of the diagonal line, with the right wheat stalk also doubled with clear doubling displaying towards the rim of the coin towards the top and tip of the wheat stalk. Graded by PCGS as a fantastic MS67, this great little coin was sold for $2,400. Now we have the chance to examine the second of 3 very desirable double-die obverse varieties for the Lincoln wheat penny from 1936. On this coin, as it is with the FS101 example as well, the date is doubled rather strongly, with all the numbers of the date displaying the doubling with dramatic effect across the board. But this variety is differentiated by the fact that the R in Liberty has what is referred to as a broken left leg, a distinct characteristic for this type. Now, this coin was slabbed by PCGS with a grade of MS66 Red and at auction was sold for $2,400 even. The 1942 penny has proven itself fertile hunting grounds for the variety collector and coin searcher, with multiple popular varieties to look for here. One of the more challenging ones to look for is the 1942 triple punched mint mark variety. Challenging because the main diagnostic points for the coin tend to fade very quickly, leaving only secondary markers to identify the coin with. On this example, the bottommost remnant of the initial S is already gone, and only a very faint remnant of the northeastern impression is left. This stunning Pop 1 example of this variety coin is graded as MS67 Red and achieved a closing price at auction of $2,460. The extremely famous or well-known varieties from 1970 and 72 are oftentimes discussed, but a variety that gets a little less press is actually the 1971 doubled obverse cent. This example of the coin is simply exemplary, with even the doubling on the date, which is usually fairly faint, being extremely clear and unmistakable on this coin. Similarly, the doubling that is found on the letters of Liberty display boldly towards the west, and the letters of In God We Trust also leave very little doubt as to the coin's variety status. This example was graded by PCGS as MS66 Red and by auction's end was sold for $2,640. 1968 harbors a number of interesting varieties for the Lincoln penny, but one that seems especially difficult to obtain is the 1968D double-die reverse cent. On this coin, doubling is seen on multiple of the design elements on the reverse of the coin, including the letters of E pluribus unum that all display clear notching towards the top right portions of the letters. This is especially true of the L, both U's, and the eye of pluribus. The dots separating the words of the motto are also doubled and appear elongated towards the southeast. This coin was graded as MS66 plus red from PCGS, and at auction it was sold for the sum of $2,880. Subscribe to WNN and activate notifications with the bell icon to know when new videos are released. For the World Numismatic News, I am Numisman saying thank you for watching, keep collecting, and have a fantastic day.